Hi everyone, delonewolf here, and welcome back to some EVE Online, and take a look at the experiment my brother and myself tried out here. Just one jump from Yona in Wisalan, one of the unidentified wormholes showed up, and so just at the beginning you could see my brother jump in there. We went with a couple of Nemesis stealth bombers. We wanted to be safe for the very first time that we checked them out. We just wanted to see the sites a little bit, and of course if we would find someone interesting for some PvP in stealth bombers, we might be able to jump them. So here you can see I'm actually rushing towards the wormhole. I didn't want to slow boat everything in cloaked, but it's a little bit of a risk. You never know when one of those drifter ships arrive. And here we go, actually taking the wormhole, which will take us to, what's the system called? JO55520, and it houses something called Sentinel, so one of those drifter hives or whatever it's called. And obviously we wanted to see what else this wormhole had to offer, but first of all try to get safe a little bit. So I went off to one of the planets. Here you can see the wormhole, really obvious that it's in Galente space, but you can also see those strange, they're called forwarders, around the wormhole. So this sort of indicates to me that the sleepers might have the technology to generate those wormholes from one set of converters to another one at will. So they pretty much work like gates that they can set to different systems. I think that that's actually how it does work. They just don't have that many connections, and so at the moment they're like popping in and out of normal space to and from these special wormholes. So after that we went to check out Sentinel, and if I'm not mistaken we were greeted by a couple drifters right there. Of course I'm doing everything in cloaked, and one of what I thought was really interesting was the setting right here. The warping on Sentinel is actually right next to a shattered planet, so that's pretty cool. I think all of the planets here are shattered, which again lore wise is decently interesting, considering the fact that all of these systems seem to have like a very bright blue star. So all of that could be a consequence of Caroline's star. Now the drifters were pretty close, so I tried to actually get a little bit of distance from them in a safe way. From time to time you'll also see the tracking camera bug, where it actually goes completely crazy for a few seconds before actually going back to whatever it is you're tracking. So I do think that I actually disable it at some point. But yeah, two of those drifter battleships that could easily one-shot our stealth bombers if we land on the wrong position. That's actually pretty threatening at this point, which I think is one of the really cool features of the way CCP has been doing the drifters at the moment, is that they're an actual threat. You know, those battleships, they can one-shot anything you can bring up against them, except for capitals and super capital ships. So but a battleship, a marauder, those aren't really safe unless you really go extreme in the tank. And a battleship, they'll just pretty much one-shot that regardless of the tank you're using. So we try to see if we can actually risk taking the gate. We're a little bit hesitant here, but there's not that much to see. So two battleships, a few up, and there goes the tracking camera again. So just two battleships and one or two of those structures, and then an acceleration gate, which is interesting that the drifters would be using acceleration gates. But here is a nice look at that battleship. Yeah, looks really cool. And I also can't wait to see what CCP has cooked up for us for a capital ships from the drifters. I think that would be really cool, and make that a live event that people can actually join. Maybe spawn a couple throughout different systems, so that people have a good chance to actually see one in action and maybe shoot it. I think that would be really cool. But a drifter design for a capital ship, I think that would be great. Now my brother shows up on the overview because he's actually risking taking the gate. I said, well, why don't you go and experiment that first? Let's see if those battleships will actually destroy you before you can take the warp. But nope, it's actually successful. So I'm next after that, and we're starting to approach the gate towards the I guess first room after the warping on Sentinel. Going in here, we knew that we would not really be able to get to the core of this, because it has like a mechanic where you have to have 2 capable ships that can dispatch sleeper drones, and they need to simultaneously unlock something. But we just wanted to check it out. You know, it was the first unidentified wormhole that spawned so close to our home base since they actually opened up. So there we go in the warp, and I'm actually, if I'm not mistaken, like a little bit too late on the cloak, or do I get decloaked on something? I'm really not sure what happened, but then I saw it retract and I was like, oh my god, no, what the hell is happening here? I'm on cooldown. I need to warp away because those small sleeper drones are actually targeting me right away. So that was, well, maybe a mistake, maybe just bad luck. Yeah, I just somehow I was decloaked upon arriving in that site, and of course 5 small sleeper drones against a non-tanked stealth bomber like this, that would be very painful. So I'm forced to warp off here, and my brother is actually checking out the site as we speak. Just a random planet, again a shattered one, and now you can really see that bright blue sun there again, which looks like it may have exploded just like the Terra sun. So lore wise this is very interesting and really cool, but I decided to go back, and I did cut here for just a moment, so we'll get back to the room that I was forced to leave here. And then there's this strange rift on the right side, so that looks really cool, but it's actually just a way back to the original warping point. But look at that, it's really beautiful, and some type of rift that I don't know how it's created, who created it, or whatever, but it looks really cool, and it basically functions as a return gate. And here are then the small sleeper drones, which I find somewhat interesting in the sense that this confirms that the drifters that we know now and the sleeper drones from wormhole space have a connection. Maybe they're working together, maybe the drifters actually make and maintain the sleeper drones. Of course, we don't know exactly what their relationship is. It could be that they're basically just one race, the drifters, that have created the sleeper drones, and so that there's no distinction. It's possible that there is still a distinction between the drifters and then the actual sleepers, but at least for now it does look like they're working together, because we had the battleships in the first room, and here we've got a couple of those classical sleeper drones that are guarding the second room, or the first room right here. So this should actually be doable. Just a couple of those small ones, something like a Stratios I think can definitely handle that. 2 Stratioses, you need to be with 2 to actually progress further along in the site, can easily handle all of this. And here goes my brother with the experiment, so he decides to take the rift, and then let's quickly see what happens on his warp. Come on, should be any second. There he goes, and straight back to that waypoint where you warp in from any other location. So I decide to go towards the other acceleration gate that's available in here to see if we can actually progress further inside and see if there's anything interesting to see there. And of course, yeah, all there is to say is that in a cloaky ship it's pretty slow progress. I think at some point we will probably have to come back and maybe take 3 ships. I think that's the safest bet to do this. Maybe Stratioses, I think that could be possible, but I am a little bit worried if this does actually escalate and you get a couple of neuting medium sleeper drones, you could actually get in trouble with the Stratios as well. So anyways, we are slowly slow boating towards that gate, trying to take it and to see if we can get in there. Of course we will, otherwise the video wouldn't be this long. We do take a look, you know, the background I think is unique of these wormholes. Again, that really awesome looking rifts. I wish that, honestly, I almost wish that they had taken out all of the acceleration gates and just had made all of these rifts that you should take. I think that would have been really cool and thematic, showing that all of this is made by the drifters and the sleepers, and so that this is actually completely different from what we know in normal space. It could of course be that there's actually a lore connection, and that these old acceleration gates, or maybe a shared technology or something that was here before they built all of the extra stuff. but I feel that takes a little bit away from the immersion, the fact that these are the exact same gates you see in your missions, in your combat anomalies or combat signatures. All of these have those same gates. That's a little bit unfortunate. I would have liked to see rifts for all of them. But I think we're closing in on the gate now, and let's take a look at how the sleepers react when you actually decloak here. 1 second, and immediately we are actually targeted by them, so they really don't like you taking that gate from a covert manner. And this time I don't screw up my cloaking, so I do this while we are in warp, and I actually cloak away in this. And this second room is pretty interesting. So it's got like 2 acceleration gates and one called beta axis or something like that. And so as it turns out, this is actually pretty complex. This is also really cool, of course. You've got this strange white monolith surrounded by a sleeper structure. Not sure if we should call it a drifter structure, but pretty obvious that it's sleeper drones around here, and it's the same type of structure that we see in normal wormholes. Also another one of those rifts, and then a couple of those acceleration gates, which at this point it becomes almost impossible for us to progress, because you need to take one of the gates and then someone else has to do the same thing somewhere else, I think. Or is it here where you split up? Not really entirely sure. It's actually a pretty complex system that requires 2 people to run this simultaneously to unlock access further along. But still, it was pretty damn interesting. Unfortunately, yeah, we just didn't have the ships to get all the way to the core and that huge ring-like structure. Still, look at that, another of those really cool rifts, and there you could also see a Circadian Seeker together with sleeper drones, again confirming that they're at least not hostile to one another, and that in all likeliness they're actually working together. And if I'm not mistaken, I actually decided to choose to go towards the beta access point, oh yeah, that one is locked. I did get decloaked, of course, so I had to warp back out, and at that point I actually stopped the experiments when it comes to the sentinel site. Now after that I did go to these anomalies, and they're actually pretty weird. I think this one is pretty interesting. You've got a drifter battleship that is continuously scanning one of those white or silver monoliths, and this could lead to a lot of speculation to what's actually happening here. You saw the monolith in the previous site already, so this could be actually produced by the sleepers or the drifters. So could these be like communications or databases arrays or something like that, and here is actually downloading and uploading data, which is then shared throughout the entire sleeper collective or something like that. It's possible. It's also possible that this actually predates the drifter, so it could be like Talocan technology or something like that. That's possible as well, but he just kept doing this for quite a while, and I thought it actually looked pretty cool. It was pretty interesting to see this drifter battleship and one Circadian Seeker constantly using its scanning device on one of these silver monoliths. So that was pretty cool. And after that we also found a violent wormhole, which looked really weird because it had something in the center. You couldn't go through it, or at least it showed in the info that that would be very bad idea to go through this violent wormhole. So I thought it looked very nice as well, but again it shows that we've definitely not found out everything there is to know about wormholes, wormhole space, the drifters, and all that technology. So here's a closer look. As you can see, a violent wormhole with some strange glowing looks like maybe an ore mass or something like that in the middle that does radiate some sort of energy. So where do these wormholes come from? What has created this? No idea, but it looks really cool. And then finally, in another anomaly, we found this strange structure that actually seems to be producing one of those rifts. So yeah, it was a very interesting experiment taking a look at this unidentified wormhole. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.